The latest from podnews.net. Apple Podcasts has demonstrated Browse by hosts and guests, showing Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend's guests within the Apple Podcast app. And if you're running iOS 13, you can see that too. We also found it in the desktop app in Mac OS Catalina. The documentation for the feature earlier this year describes the image requirements, but just says these search enhancements will be first available for selected top shows in English. We can't see any evidence of them in the podcast's RSS feed, and the guests appear not to include Conan's latest guest, David Letterman, highlighting that this might be a manual process. Here's a question: are Apple moving away from RSS? Apple's also highlighted Search the Audio, the Apple Podcast feature which searches transcripts, much like Google Podcasts does. The highlight appears in the iOS app after upgrading to the latest version of iOS 13. Stitcher podcasts are now represented in Australia by Whooshkaa, opening up mid-roll podcasts to Australian advertisers. Stitcher are also represented by the Podcast Exchange in Canada. Podtrac have released their top podcast publishers for September 2019. The data is US only. iHeartRadio have fallen back to number 2. Cast Media is a new entrant to the chart at number 10. Resonate Recordings have released the Resonate Recorder, a browser-based recording tool for USB microphones, allowing simple recordings to be made without digging out that copy of Audacity, Hindenburg or Pro Tools. And podcast host Captivate now has Spotify pass-through, which means Spotify stats appear in the same place as the rest of the stats on the Captivate platform. In podcasts today, new independent series Moonface debuts tomorrow. It's a generational coming-of-age story between a Korean-American son and his immigrant mother. And that's the latest from our newsletter at podnews.net.
Here's a question. What is technology? How you're listening to me right now, on your phone, your smart speaker, or laptop. We know that's tech. But tech is also the way we develop new medicines. It's how we compose music. It's our connection to friends and strangers. And it's changing every day. I'm Ariel Dzimros, and when I see those changes, I see worlds I can't wait to dive into and question. Because none of us are immune to those changes, and we need to understand their impact right now. That's why I'm hosting a new tech podcast called Reset, from Recode by Vox. We'll examine how artificial intelligence is changing the way we write.
I had a bizarre thought enter my head, which was, I wonder if at some point these AIs are going to be able to write my novel ideas better than I could.
How algorithms augment flaws in our thinking.
Over and over again, we're seeing that these algorithms display bias and that they amplify bias and that it can have very serious real-world consequences for people.
We'll talk to the biohackers who are challenging regulators and scientific standards.
So, would I sell CRISPR that somebody could inject and make their muscles bigger? Who knows?
And we'll look at the tools we have to save our rapidly warming world.
Oh yeah, I think you need drones. I think you need fixed wing detection. I think you need satellite. You need radar. The public, everybody. We're all in this together.
Every story is a tech story, and we're going to break that down. Reset launches on October 15th and drops Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Subscribe right now on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. From Stitcher and the Vox Media Podcast Network.